Hey, Grandpa, or Patrick. I don't really know what to call you. Wow, this feels so weird. I mean, you passed away almost 40 years ago. But, as Mom told me, your goal was to live long enough to see the last sat mind, and to witness how the world would have magically transformed by that time. Obviously, that was a bit ambitious, but at least your granddaughter gets to experience it now. It's such a shame we never had the chance to meet, but I'm honestly kind of stoked that someone figured out how to send messages back and forth in time with this Nostra thing. I'm seriously trying my best to make my transmissions as accessible as possible for someone living 100 years ago. But sometimes it's hard to remember every concept and every technology you didn't know back then. So honestly, I love the idea of you reaching out to brilliant minds from your time to help fully grasp what I'm trying to share.
Time is actually tied to money. You can't separate both.
But the big problem here is that if we agree that I'm going to deliver a certain product or service to you, I built a shed in your garden, I spend a week of time and a week of energy in that time and deliver you that shed. Actually, the time I spend is gone. So that's why, as a concept, that the time in the reward is a very important concept, right? Because that's what you're giving me, so I can take that and spend it on something else. But whether I want to do that like right now after you pay me, or next week, or in 5 years, should not really matter.
You transport your own time, actually, you already spent into that concept, right? So,
but the problem is that there is a third party that influences the strength of the money that we are using to compress or package that time.
I think we're close to appreciating the power of language, but I think as we get more grown up as a species, what we'll do is we'll end up having numbers as our language, because they'll be the most extensible. Like numbers, we'll communicate with numbers. We'll find out a lot of things that numbers sort of express already that we don't look at. Like one thing we can be guaranteed, if we're working with numbers, like as our root element, we know that any other species in the universe, past, present, or future, they will have access to those. And so when you think about what definitely existed 1,000 years ago, numbers. And that's why numbers become this transcendental communication tool.
How do we search for information? Well, not that long ago, you would have had to go to the library. What books were actually allowed to be printed? And what books that were printed were allowed to be in that library? Great questions. I'm not sure what the answers are right now, but then it's become the internet and everything has been digitized. Who controls the digital monopolies where you spend time online? Well, they're private companies that are in bed with certain governments, and you cannot find some information because it's misinformation, right? The advertising spend is there to mediate the conversation. Be like, we don't condone this type of chat. So what will it look like in a world in which we ask an AI for information on everything? Well, you'd have to trust the AI. And can you trust the AI? We'll find out. It's where I think it really comes down to being a first principles approach problem solving person. And if you get information that's wrong and you make an action because of it, that's still on you. Ultimate ownership has to remain with the individual.
a weekday edition of the New York Times contains more information than the average person was likely to consume across a lifetime in the 17th century England. So one thing is like who owns the information. The other side is like how much information are you able to get inside your brain before you're sick. That quote is from the 80s. That was before the internet. I think that artificial intelligence especially could be something that might kill social media. You don't know what's true today, okay? But now every 12-year-old kid is able to pump out as much content as a whole media company. So I'm asking myself, what does it do to our society when that happens? And I think the only way to handle that is to have some sort of conscious process that leads more inwards than outwards.
And I had my career, it kind of peaked, I maybe plateaued. This was as a business person. And then I found myself unemployed because of COVID. And I decided I was going to write about Bitcoin because that's something that I'd studied, had a lot of passion for. And I suddenly discovered this flow state, this passion and purpose at the same time. And the writing about Bitcoin wasn't just I was writing what I knew. I discovered through my writing things that I didn't know. And so it was this incredibly purposeful and rewarding time. It was doing something that was challenging but rewarding at the same time. And yes, there were other people who were enjoying it, and I found some satisfaction in hearing other people enjoy it, but it was personally rewarding, right? It was like I was happy with what I was doing.
What I'm really excited, there were like huge inventions in all over history with the steam engine or stuff like that. But we have stuff that is more powerful than the steam engine to transform, and we have 3 of them at the same time. It's Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And I bet like we can't even imagine how the world will look like in 5 years.
Our current world pushes us to create what's called which I label as kind of like active change. I'm trying to create and change the world around me. Whereas I think as I trend into Bitcoin further, and as I'm seeing others go down their Bitcoin path, they realize that, it's awesome going creating companies and creating this active change externally, but most of the change actually comes from within. When you're actually working on yourself, you actually reverberate and you create energetic change amongst others just by rubbing up against them on an energetic level. That's how we grow as a society, when we're vibrating at a very different frequency. And that is, I believe, the world we're going to be living in 100 years, is it's about the internal world much more so than trying to change the external world.
I got into personal development and spiritual experiences with like 23. Just imagine you have a whole generation working with that from like age 5. This is just so different.